Fake carrots. Fake fruit. Fake. Fake. Fake grapefruits. Fake. Liar! You liar!
And welcome back to the Prepare Mind channel. It is Monday Mageddon, kind of a takeoff of yesterday's Zoomageddon, because it is still Mageddon it on over there in Israel. We've got some big trouble. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It's Columbus Day, folks. Columbus. Well, you know, I know the Vikings got here to North America a long time before Columbus did, but Columbus was responsible for bringing European civilization to the Americas, which is quite different than North, Central, and South American civilization, which was not as kind and benevolent and sweet as everyone would like to pretend it was. No, they tended to live peacefully for times and kill each other at times, just like everyone else on the planet. But what Columbus did that the Vikings were not able to do was bring a level of technology to the Americas. On top of that, folks, by discovering the new world, that there were more places for people to live, Columbus, right, inspired people to travel here and escape the bullshit over in Europe. All of the kings and tyrants, and they were tyrants, folks, thinking they owned everyone and everything. Well, here we are, about 500 years later, and we have the same people with the same attitudes, making the same asinine ideas, everyone else's problems. They think they own us and that there's no place for us to go. Yep, we've come full circle. Welcome back to shit hitting the fan. People were free for a while. They had choices for a while, but it's all come to an end. Isn't that amazing? We're born. We're small children. We grow up, and in America for a while, some of us believed we had this thing called freedom. But when you look what's going on in the world, you realize, well, we never really had much of it, in all truth, with people like Joe Biden and Barack, people like Hillary, these idiots that want to start a war every 5 minutes, terrorists, religious freaks, as well as just the plain old, how do we say this? Because I want to make sure I offend all of the barbaric, crude people out there. Because they are barbaric and they are crude and they're awful. And they're pouring across our border right now. We've got our hands full. I sure hope you're prepared. Let's get it on. Get your questions down below. We got Uman in the house. He has graced us with his presence, and he generously donates his time all the time. And thank you, Mr. Uman, very much. We couldn't have this show the way it is without Uman, without Jolene, and without you guys in the audience. So I'm going to do my 30-minute monologue. Any guesses about what I'll be discussing? 30-minute monologue, and then get to your questions, your thoughts, your ideas. I know it's kind of a holiday, but folks, we all got our things, don't we? And I believe what's going on right now is important enough to pay attention to. So I figured I would start off this discussion today by asking, where in the damn, just where in the hell is the President of the United States of America? Where is this guy? Where is he? Right now, Hamas, a terrorist organization, is threatening to kill, execute, not just civilians from Israel, but also American hostages. They're threatening to execute Americans on TV, live. Where is the damn President of the United States? Where is this clown? You know where he is? He decided to take the rest of Monday off. I think when there's an emergency, something serious like this, you shouldn't take the day off. Hell, he had to take not one, but 2 vacations before he could head out to Hawaii when Maui was burning. He wanted to make sure that the cinders were nice and cold before he showed up. This, folks, is not a leader. He is not a president. He is a puppet. He totally, just completely is. It blew me away when I learned that he decided he was going to call a lid, put a lid on it. In other words, just seal the day. Done. I'm sick of their little games, their little terms, their bullshit, pretending like they work so hard over in Washington when they don't. You want to see people working hard, folks, you get out of Washington and go check things out. Hamas, a terror organization, is benefiting from weapons granted to it, given to it, donated to it by Iran. And Iran just received $6 billion from the United States government, from Washington, D.C., from Biden. And President Trump's spokesman comes out and says the American people are not stupid. They know where the money came from. We all know, folks. Now, you want to make this even worse? You want to make this understood even better? You want to clear the air? Biden right now is trying to secure $100 billion for Ukraine. You want to know why? So he doesn't have to argue, fight, or talk about it throughout the 2024 campaign season. He's going to give them another $100 billion. It is beyond, folks. It's beyond treason at this point. It is absolutely unconscionable what these people are doing to our country and the world. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is just fine? Do you think this is normal? Do you think this is how presidents and governments are supposed to operate? We're supposed to allow terrorists to take hostages and just get away with it? Hamas right now is threatening Israel also. Hey, we'll kill your civilians. We'll kill all the hostages we took if you continue to invade and fight us in Gaza. In other words, they want to have a secure place where they're not threatened while they bomb and commit acts of terror over on the Israeli side of the border. They are doing precisely what terrorists do. Now, a lot of people think, well, that's how you fight a war, John. No, it's not. The way you fight a war is you take your guns, your men, your tanks, your planes, your rockets, your mines, your bombs, and you go to where the enemy is and you start trying to kill them. You do not take hostages like women and children and foreigners and start threatening them. You don't kidnap them and hold them hostage. Now, I know that the most intelligent policy is not to negotiate with terrorists. Okay, Biden, why are you negotiating with terrorists in Iran and giving them $6 billion? What kind of negotiating is he doing with terrorists in Gaza, Hamas? Now, I'll tell you what, this is going to sound a little rough. If I was president, I would say something like, I'm sorry, Americans, if you want to be free, you be free in America. If you leave America and you go to a place like Israel or Egypt, you have to expect these sorts of things to happen from time to time. You have to expect it. You have to expect this sort of thing to happen. You should not go. Hey, oh man. Was my microphone off this whole time? It just sounds better now. Well, okay then. Yeah, if you go to a foreign country where there's terrorism, expect to be taken hostage and expect to die. What the United States government should do right now, immediately, is say, oh, you want to take our people hostage? We are now going to bomb the living shit out of you for it. The CIA is not full of blind and deaf people. They can see and hear, and they should know exactly where the bad guys are, where they are housed, etc. They should be bombing the living shit out of them. No doubt. And if the Americans die, they die as if they were fighting those terrorists. Now, if you have the chance, the opportunity to rescue them with a rescue team, you do that as well. But it needs to be intelligently done. It needs to be done in such a way that there is a high degree of success. This is how you deal with terrorists. You fucking kill them. Instead, the president decides to take the rest of the day off. That is not leadership, folks. That is acquiescence. That is giving the enemy what they want. That is emboldening the enemy. And this is the leadership from the Democrat Party. What a mess. I hope you got your questions. Get them in down below to Uman. Now, here comes the boom. Israel has now initiated a complete siege. They are going after Gaza and the terrorists. They've cut off food, fuel, water, electricity. They've cut it all off. Their ground operation is going to commence, if it has not already. This is what they should be doing. You want a war, you got it, you little bastards. I'm still surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised, if they didn't go full nuclear on these people. I don't mean with full-size bombs, but tacticals. I'm shocked still that these people are this stupid that they want to fight this badly. I don't want the violence, folks, but here it comes. And I want everyone to understand also, folks, that the government of Washington, D.C. could do the same thing to you and me because we support Trump and we support free speech. They could cut off fuel and food, water and electricity to all of us if they wanted to. They could impose a complete siege on Americans for wanting freedom and liberty. We've talked about it. We've gotten prepared for it. What do we have? We have Hillary Clinton. We have other mouthpieces within the Democrat Party saying there needs to be a roundup of Trump supporting, Make America Great Again supporting, freedom loving, free speech having American citizens, American people, American sovereigns. This is what they're after, folks. They want us to see this. This is just an awful situation that's developing. And it's going to get more interesting. Yes, we live in interesting times. And it's going to get much more difficult as well. It really is. Once again, get your questions down below. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm covering my topics. There's more happening right now in the news, right? It's being picked up in all of my media applications that I share with you guys every day. I'm getting messages from Orlando. I'm getting messages from Bahana. I'm getting messages from Booman. I'm getting messages from Kaz. I'm getting messages from lots of people. Now, let us continue talking about what is happening. And remember, what applies in Israel applies to Turkey, to Ukraine, to Europe, to America, to Canada, to China. Yes, things are a little different from country to country, but we need to understand, folks, the rules of war are the rules of war. Now, there's a memo going around in Canada. That's right, folks, Canada. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC. It's kind of like NBC, but it's the CBC. It's the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They have a memo. The memo says, do not refer to Hamas as terrorists. Instead of calling it the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, they ought to call it the Canadian Pandering Network, because that's what they are. They're pandering, they're giving in, they're showing how weak they are. Why would Canada even need to pretend? Why would they even need to pretend? I just don't get it. It makes no sense. Why would they want to give in? Why would they want to appear weak? This is where they're at, folks. This is what's on their mind. This is how they operate. This is the game they play. Look weak, give in, encourage the enemy. That's what they're doing right now, is they're encouraging Hamas. Don't refer to them as terrorists. Well, what do we refer to them as? See, of course, they're going to say we're freedom fighters. Oh, because that sounds patriotic. But when the freedom fighters in Canada said they were tired of tyrannical government shutting them down, destroying their incomes, destroying their businesses, destroying their livelihoods, destroying their freedoms, were they called freedom fighters by the Canadian government or the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation? Nope, they were not freedom fighters nor patriots. They were treated like terrorists, just short of being shot. They had their money frozen. They had their contracts dissolved. They had their bank accounts stolen. They had their fuel supplies, what they needed to stay alive in a frozen hellhole that they call their country up north. And here we are, folks. Don't call Hamas terrorists. Last thing you want to do is upset a bunch of people who would kill you in a frickin' second. And have you thought about that? How many seconds would it take a Hamas member to decide to kill you if given a chance? They would love that shit. Now, I'm going to tell you that this is some huge news. This development is taking a turn because of what's going on in Israel. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., right? RFK Jr., the son of Robert Kennedy, who was assassinated as Attorney General, the nephew of John F. Kennedy, president. He says he's going to run for president, but not as a Democrat. He's going to do it as an independent. And now, folks, the media can't stop this. Not now that Biden has ignored that American hostages are being held by Hamas, and he hasn't done jack shit about it. Americans, if this continues to get out, and I hope it gets out, are going to be outraged. They're already outraged over Ukraine, and Biden saying he wants to give them another $100 million. Tell you what, folks, when this is all said and done, American military should be rolling into Ukraine to take that and take everything back from these people. And it's not the Ukraine people that are wrong, folks. It isn't. It's the corporations and government sellouts over there that have stolen everyone's money under the pretense of it's support for the war. Now, back to Robert Kennedy. After what Biden has done in Afghanistan, what he's done with the southern border, what he's done with his threats over the sheep vitamins, the Jim Jones juice, what he has done with the military and destroying it, children in America. And now we have this, Israel, where American hostages have been taken, and he's decided to just, put his head up between his legs or in the sand. It doesn't very matter which one. So the media, I don't think, can stop him because he has ignored and just given up his authority. He's done jack shit. Think the American people are going to respect that? The media has had enough of this shit now, folks. And when the media has had enough, it's quite interesting. It's not that they've had enough of Trump. It's not that they've had enough of you. It's they've had enough of this leftism. It truly has. And I'm going to give you an example of this. Over in Australia, they have a reporter. Her name is Sherry Markson. And she was trying to report the news on the air about Hamas, the terrorist group full of bloodthirsty terrorists. And she wanted to talk about the barbarity of the attacks in Israel and how women and children have been captured, held hostage, raped, people having their heads cut off. And she couldn't help it. She started breaking down, crying on air. Now, I guarantee that she has seen worse than what they're allowed to broadcast, to televise. And she also has a pretty good idea of how the women and children are suffering now. How can she sit there with a straight face and coldly report the news? She is, after all, a woman. How could a man sit here and report the news without being fucking pissed off about it? Well, we are. And then you have people in America like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashid Tlaib, if I'm pronouncing that pile of shit name correctly, and Ilhan Omar, whatever the fuck her name is, diaperhead congresswoman, as well as the rest of the jihad squad and all of their suck-up crew and their staff and the Democrat fucking idiot. It's just idiotville in D.C. supporting Hamas and supporting Hezbollah and supporting Iran and supporting this attack. How do they sleep at night? They probably sleep with a big fat smile on their face. People are getting killed by the thousands in Ukraine because they're funding this war and they don't want it to stop. So they want to chuck another 100 billion out there. Now I tell you all of this and I say, stop right there and think. If they're willing to do this to Ukrainian people, if they're willing to allow this to happen to Americans and Israelis and the British and others in Israel, and women and children, and allow them to be kidnapped, held hostage, attacked, raped, murdered, what do you think they're going to allow to happen to you in this country? What do you think they would give a shit? Or do you think they would celebrate just as readily as they celebrated during 9/11 when the towers came down? Same people, same celebration. And yeah, they've got a lot more power and authority in government now. Now they're in the bureaucracy. Now they couldn't give a rat's ass. Now we have commies coming out of West Point and Annapolis. Communists in the military brass, sitting in the Pentagon. Communists. America hating, stinking communists. Fucking try me. I'm just one person, just like the rest of you. We're all just one person. It's coming. It's disgusting what has happened. And people are going to start losing their shit, like Sherry Markson, right, in Australia, who can't believe what is happening. Well, people in America, folks, people around the world are getting tired of it and getting tired fast. That's why Biden is allowing what is happening. That's why this is what I would like to call a big stinking false flag. It has been allowed to happen. It has been caused to happen. It has been funded so that it can happen. And Biden has done it. Now, over in Europe, the country of Slovakia, folks, it used to be Czechoslovakia. Now you have the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Well, the Slovakia half of the country, Slovakia has said no more military aid to Ukraine. That's right, none, done. Shouldn't they be afraid? They're part of Eastern Europe. They're just on the other side. They're up there by Germany. They're right up there by Ukraine and Belarus. Shouldn't Slovakia be afraid of Russian invasion? Well, the leader of Slovakia, they have a different style of government than we do. They have a parliamentary system. The populist leader, his name is Robert Fico. He has put together a majority coalition to govern. Well, in response to the people saying, we've had it with this shit, we want that guy as our leader, we want a government coalition created to take our will out there. And other EU nations and the United Nations, or rather European Union, says he's pro-Putin. First thing you do is, instead of engage in debate, is destroy the man ad hominem. Just destroy him. Destroy his reputation, his credibility. Attack that instead of having a debate about what's going on. Now, this is what Robert Fico said. He said Slovakia, which is the country, and people in Slovakia, so the country and the people, have more serious problems than Ukraine. That's all I can say at this moment. He is the new leader of Slovakia, folks, and he is withdrawing from supporting Ukraine. Funny how caring about the people of a country who own the country, and funny how caring about the country is instantly referred to as being a Russian asset or supporting Putin. That's what they've got, folks. That's the way of the media, the left, big government, is to accuse you, if you don't support them, of being part of the enemy's team. We've seen that from Zelensky. We've seen it from Zelensky. We've seen it from the United States. We've seen it from the European Union. We've seen it everywhere. If you don't give them what they want, they'll trash you. Well, I think the people have had enough of this stupid stuff, folks. Now, the way I see it is, yeah, people have had enough. That doesn't mean it's going to change. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be fixed. Certainly not quickly, certainly not by tomorrow. It takes a while, folks. It takes a bit of time. Now, what do we got? President Trump. I was wondering if this was going to pop up here. President Trump has decided to come out and say, look, folks, it's not just Joe Biden. It's Barack Obama. Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, is the boss of Biden. And I can't help but agree with President Trump. Biden cannot find his way onto stage. He can't get up the stage without tripping. He can't find the podium. He cannot read the teleprompter. He can't speak intelligently as his own person. And when he does, he typically says, well, I'm going to get in trouble if I say anything. And then he can't find his way off the stage. The man is a fool, but he is being portrayed as the president. So Trump is out there campaigning, folks. I thought the Democrats were going to shut him up. That's what I thought. I thought the Democrats were going to shut him up. They were going to silence him. They were going to put him in jail. They were going to convict him. Well, we got some stuff going on, folks. We got some big things happening in the world. The mainstream media here in the United States of America is starting to crumble as well, under the weight of the complete asinine ignorance and stupidity. Now, the jackass known as Jack Smith, the Attorney General's prosecutor who has been just going after Trump with everything they've got in a massive political persecution that is unending. Every time they try charging him with something and it gets dismissed, they just come up with something else to try and charge him with. Well, now he's wanting to say that there was potentially sensitive discussions that were held about nuclear submarines with foreigners, between Trump and foreigners. Potentially sensitive. Well, look, sensitive is one thing. Secret is another. If you want top secret, go to Biden's garage and look behind his Corvette for boxes of secret documents. Sensitive is one thing, but top secret's another. Confidential is another. Eyes only is that's what it is. Sensitive is what's between Michael Obama's legs. That's a sensitive subject. I guess maybe that's top secret too. But yeah, it's not just that this Trump discussed potentially, maybe, kinda, could be, who knows, sensitive information. Well, it's been leaked. Once again, in order for this to get out in the public, to try and create more rage and support for the Democrats, they've had to leak more information from their investigation. I do not know. Well, actually, I do know. I was going to say, I don't know why Jack Smith hasn't been locked up. The answer is because he's doing as he's told. He is leaking information about sensitive investigations. And what he leaks may be a crime. But don't expect anyone to hold him accountable. Folks, they're not going to hold anyone accountable. Not if they can help it. Not one bit. That's not what they're about. It truly isn't what they're about. Whew. What a weekend. A 3-day weekend, folks. 3-day weekend. I've been busy the whole damn time. I hope you have had some chance to rest, to recover. But right now, we're going to do this. We're going to switch on over. We're going to get into part 2 of the show. We're going to get into the inner circle. This is where it's your chance to bring up questions and topics that go right here. If you're a member of the preparedmind.club or subscribe to our.com, $2 a month. That's what it costs. At the preparedmind.club or subscribe to our.com, you can support our channel and our effort to keep free speech open. And I will say everything I can, folks, about free speech. It is our weapon right now. It is the weapon that is stopping evil. It is fighting, and it is just hammering the shit out of the bad guys. Free speech. We're not using bullets. We're not using bombs. We're using free speech as our weapon against the evil. And now is your chance to join in that fight. So get your questions into Ooman and let's get to it. And there we are. There we have it. Okay, Mr. Ooman, it is that kind of a day. What do we have? Rolling. We've got name redacted. Noted for his cutting and witty and poignant, salient discussion topics. Name redacted says, "Hey, John, during the 20-year never-ending war, we never had a shortage of ordnance. Somehow Ukraine has discovered how to use all of ours up. I think we're seeing a bunch used in Israel. What say you?" Well, I tell you what. During the 20-year never-ending war, that was the war on terror that was started by George W. Bush. Right? We had to go into Iraq. Then we had to go into Afghanistan. And it was never ending. It never was. Okay. Oh, thank you, Mr. Ooman. One moment. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we managed, while occupying, sending everything around the world to Afghanistan, creating bases, fighting constantly a bunch of goat herding desert dwellers, constantly going after them with artillery, air support, troops, etc. We never ran out, but now we're running out. Well, we're not fighting in Afghanistan, are we? In fact, they pulled quite short of that, just in time to start up Ukraine. But Ukraine has managed to use all we have and all we can give. with the exception of what they keep for themselves and sell to others for money. And they haven't been able to defeat the Russians with everything we've got in conventional ordnance. But then you bring this up. I think we're seeing a bunch used in Israel. Okay, well, this begs, right, the question. It begs the question. Could the United States government, Joe Biden, as part of the $6 billion that was given, paid out to Iran, could they have delivered bombs, rockets, missiles? And are those the ones that were aimed at Israel? Could that have been a part of the $8 billion? A huge arms transaction. It very well could be. No doubt it very well could be that these are U.S. munitions being fired into Israel. Now, I remember during everything in Syria, they loved to find pieces of exploded ordnance and show the serial numbers, the stenciled numbers of bombs, and say, oh my gosh, this is definitely chemical weapons. Remember that stuff? They'd show you whose missiles they were and whose bombs they were so that they could assign blame and who's supporting this and who's doing that. You see, these are Russian chemical canisters. Why has not Israel held up a chunk of steel somewhere that has serial numbers? I'm waiting for it. I guess I shouldn't hold my breath, though. I should not hold my breath. Okay. Mr. Uman, I know you got some stuff out there you want to talk about. Everyone has something to say. Don't be afraid to say it. Folks, fear causes people to be silent. And when people are silent, the government says, no one's dissenting. We must be doing exactly what they want. Carry on. Send them more money. Don't do it, folks. Stand up and fight. Charles Gentry is one that'll do that for sure. He says, wow, over there and Americans too. Plus $6 billion is worth not letting the world know Osama lived out his final days in Iran for Obama Biden. Well, Charles is hitting a little bit about conspiracy theory stuff here, right? That's what the media would call it. That's what the government would call it. What do you mean Osama, as in Osama bin Laden, lived out his final days in Iran? Well, I believe Obama, as in Barack Hussein Barry Soetoro, wife of Michael Obama, that guy right there, he paid pallets of cash to the Iranians. And we never got a good answer as to what that was for. What possible reason could we be wanting to give cash to Iran when we're sanctioning them? We're not allowing their oil to be sold on the world market. Well, don't worry about that anyways. The BRICS Union has set up their cash payment system to sidestep the SWIFT system so that Iran can sell to China and India, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, and other nations. Now they can exchange whatever they want. They don't need the SWIFT system. In fact, it cracks me up. The SWIFT system has been around how many decades? Surely there's got to be something today that can be invented with some coding, right? It's just a program. It's just a network. They could do it in 5 minutes. If they can create a stinking app on the phone, they ought to be able to come up with a trade settlement system that doesn't rely on the United States and its SWIFT system. Yep. What are they buying with this money, folks? What did Biden buy? What did Obama buy? What did Hillary Clinton? Oh, yeah, she was Secretary of State. Very powerful figure in the Obama administration. What was worked out? You bet, folks. It's a shit show. All we are is just little people. Are you prepared? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense? Do you have your plan all together? I don't know what it's going to be when it happens, but it could happen. It is not guaranteed to happen, but odds are it's going to. You think the whole world can fall apart and will be insulated in America? We're already falling apart. We're already having trouble. People not being able to, well, stay in their hotel room because it is being occupied by illegal aliens. They're trying to put illegals in schools and house them there. It is unbelievable what the government has decided. It has the authority to do. Unbelievable. Okay, well, thank you, Charles, very much for that topic and bringing up the very scary name of Osama bin Laden. Well, you've got Al-Qaeda, you've got the Palestinian Liberation Organization, you've got Hamas, you've got Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda. You have, what's that other one that was a spinoff of Al-Qaeda? What was it? Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's all ridiculous. They're all the same people. They're all the same people. And don't worry, American politicians will pose with them for pictures, like Senator John McCain, who decided he was going to appear and pose with terrorists who cut the heads off of children. That's who these people are, folks. They don't give a shit. All right. Let us do this. Mr. Uman, let's see who's up next. We've got Chin Music, and thanks for the great donation yesterday, Chin Music. He says, hey, intel on the ground says the Taliban is trying to secure safe passage for weapons deliveries through Iran and Iraq. Those are the munitions Ice Cream Head left behind. You bet. Now, knowing what we know now, knowing that governments plan wars, not just months, but sometimes years in advance, that they have short-term and long-term plans, is it beyond reason? Is it out of the realm of possibility? Or is it possible that the United States government, under the leadership of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, intentionally gave up everything we had in Afghanistan and handed it over to the Taliban, who were not knocking on the door of Kandahar demanding to come in, but were miles and miles and hundreds of miles away. But they were notified, hey, the United States is leaving. Come and get it. Come and take over. Is it beyond the realm of possibility that the Biden administration, the powers that be, the deep state, the CIA, their buddies in the banking cartel, intentionally, for this very thing you're talking about, left $86 billion in weapons for radical, Muslim, anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-West, radical fanatics could take over and then eventually deliver them to places of conflict like Israel and put them on ships so they could send them to places like Mexico and into North Africa, where they can be transported across the water to Spain, France, Portugal, Italy, Greece, etc. You recall when Erdogan of Turkey, the president of Turkey, the second largest military force in NATO, was rounding up immigrants, passing them through Turkey and into Greece, and threatening to go to war with anyone that tried stopping him. And Greece tried building a wall to stop these illegal immigrants from coming in and flooding their country. Whose side is Erdogan on? Whose side? Is he on the European side with NATO? Is he on the Russian side with Putin? Or is he on the side with George Soros? Ice cream head. That's pretty good, man. This is the world we have. This is the world that is here now. That's costing so many lives. I hope you get prepared if you're not already. If you are prepared, I sure hope you are training, practicing, and continually updating your knowledge database for who is who and what is what. All right. Thank you, Chin Music. Mr. Uman, who wants to step up next? Who has something to say? And I hope it's another good one. Oh, it has to be good. It's from Uman himself. He says, saw an article before the show that the Palestinians are complaining they have nowhere to go after the retaliatory strike. Wonder what they thought would happen for aiding and abetting Hamas. Everyone is complaining about Israel's wall. That would be their border wall. But Egypt shoring up their border wall because they don't want them either. You bet. See, walls work. Hey, have you ever tried to walk from the sidewalk at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House? Have you tried it? Well, if you do, you'll be stopped. There is a wall/gate there. They work. It keeps people out. Walls, fences, gates, they work. Government has no problem using them the way they want them. So yeah, if you go back to your first statement, Mr. Uman, I'd like to address that a little more. Yeah, the Palestinians are complaining. There's nowhere to go after, well, Israel has begun striking them. And folks, Israel is going to continue to strike. Israel very well may roll down in there with tanks and go building to building and clean out. Just clean them out, everyone. The Palestinians, I don't think, would have supported this attack if they knew that their side of the wall was going to be utterly destroyed afterwards. But they sure celebrated when it happened, I bet. I bet every last one of those little fuckers down there thought it was great to be blowing shit up, to be sending all those missiles into Israel, probably thinking to themselves, yeah, who is King Bibi gonna blame for this? Who could he go after for this? It's so big that he can't respond. Yet here we are. Israel's gonna respond and keep responding, and threatening them at this point is not going to change their mind. You see, they see everything coming as a threat. Can you imagine the nation of Ukraine if it had Russia on the east as it does now, and on the south, and on the west, and on the north? If Ukraine was surrounded on all four sides by countries like Russia, don't you think they would be fearful? What if the United States had Russia to the south and Russia up where Canada is right now? Don't you think the United States of America would feel a little bit threatened? Hell, the United States of America was threatened by the Russians, the Soviet Union, having nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 100 miles from, well, the tip of Florida. But that was pretty damn close to have those missiles. That was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Israel has the Palestinians on their west. They have Egypt on the south. They have Jordan and Syria to the east and the north. They're absolutely surrounded by people that want to kill them. And then on the other side of those countries, there are even more nations that want to see Israel absolutely destroyed. So what kind of response should they expect from them? Cowering? Imagine if Israel said, hey, we're not going to respond. That would just encourage the aggressors, the terrorists in Palestine, Hamas, the terrorists, Hezbollah, the terrorists. Remember when they had Yasser Arafat? Yasser Arafat, head of the PLO. They had some kooky people there, folks. Yasser Arafat, they had Muammar Gaddafi, they had all of these people. What do they have now? I don't know. What I do know is they're completely jacked up. They've completely fucked everything up. They don't think. This just goes also to show you that their planning is completely, wholly, utterly inadequate. Completely inadequate. That this is their plan, is just to shoot everything they got into Israel and then fly over the border, kill, capture, take as many people as they can, and then have no plan beyond that. This morning I talked about Code Pink and other organizations in America, apolitical or political, and political action committees, political groups, right? Code Pink, that they're supporting this, that they want to hold rallies in support of this attack on Israel. I thought that if you weren't pro-Israel, you were an anti-Semite, and that being anti-Semitic made you a Holocaust denier. And that as a Holocaust denier, you're as bad as a Nazi or a Ku Klux Klan member. That to be anti-Semite was one of the worst things any human could ever be. Yada, 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 yada. Yet now it has become all but politically vogue. It is a good thing to be an anti-Semite and talk shit about Israel and wish for their doom and their death. It's crazy. And by the way, the man who won the Nobel Peace Prize has still refused to say anything negative about Hamas's attack on women, children, and innocent people in Israel. That man's name is Barack Obama. That's right, Barack Hussein Barry Soetoro Obama, former liar-in-chief, current puppet master of Joe Biden, allegedly. No statement at all. Don't you think the man who is brilliant enough to win the Nobel Prize, don't you think he could have something to say? You would think so. You would think so. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable where we are at. They'll come after all of us, folks. They truly will. They're going to do it. Now, the question is, how stupid is the government of the United States? Right? The people, me and you, we're not stupid. We know who is funding this, where it came from, and why it happened. Are the governments so stupid that they're going to pretend they don't know and that they don't know how to take action to fix this? Are we going to allow that type of idiocy to reign supreme? I think they're gonna pretend to be idiots while they foment and support terrorism. Mr. Uman, what say you? He says the other setup for victimhood is housing and hiding their missiles in schools, hospitals, mosques, and other public places. Then, when Israel strikes those locations, they are going to claim that Israel is targeting civilians. This is exactly what terrorists do, folks. They hide behind the skirts of women and children, church and hospital, the same way the Ukrainians did. They used children and women as human shields and then scream, it's a war crime, it's awful, how dare you kill women and children in order to get to the terrorists. And then they turn around and they parade those dead women and children and use them to raise more hatred, vitriol, anger, demands for revenge and retribution at any cost, at any time in the future. Right? They create martyrs just so they have people to point to and say, that's why we need war with Israel. You need to understand, folks, this is what they want. This is the world they are trying to create. This is what they're going to get. They want Armageddon. Well, they're going to get one hell of a war, folks. But I want you to understand and remember and recall, war used to kill not just a couple of thousand people, but there could be a battle of armies. And by the time that battle was over, 500,000 or 1 million people would be dead. That's how wars used to be fought, where everyone entered the field of battle until there was no one left to leave except the victors, and they would be few in number. When we start seeing that, I'll say that's the real Armageddon. Until then, we're going to see this crap going on, this terrorist crap. So, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Do you think you're better off today than you were last week, last month, last year, with respect to how many days, weeks, or months of food you have? How many rounds of ammunition, how much training you've done? Do you have a plan to secure your home, your neighborhood, your community? Are you fully ready for what's coming? I sure hope you are. You know who the enemy is. They're out here and they're telling us right now. Chance favors the prepared mind. Semper Fi. God bless America.